Today I'm having coffee with my buddy John McKeever. John is a conductor of opera and orchestral music, and we became close friends when we did our doctorates together at the University of Colorado. John also happens to be a co-host of a podcast called Musical Minutes with John and John. So I'm going to make a coffee and I'm going to call John McKeever and see what he's doing. Hey, John, how's it going?
I'm good, Silas. How are you?
Doing pretty good. Long time no see. Couple of weeks, actually.
Couple of weeks, which is remarkable, all things considered.
Yeah. So the theme of the show is coffee. So do you have something with you?
I do. I've got some good black coffee.
That's it. Straight up black coffee. Special brand or just whatever you can get your hands on?
You know, it's that holiday time of year, so my fiance and I treated ourselves a little bit and ordered some coffee from my local coffee shop in Anchorage, Alaska, Kaladi Brothers. They'll ship anywhere, and it's I like it.
Yeah. So you are on the East Coast now. You're in
North Carolina now.
Okay, but currently living in Boulder and from Alaska, and so the story is long, I think.
Yeah. Well, I mean, born and raised in Alaska, very, very tight-knit musical community, and actually moved to North Carolina to study bass with a teacher who is also from Anchorage, Alaska. So I grew up studying with all of his teachers and knew his high school teacher and his middle school teachers. And they were like, oh, you guys you need to go work with Paul Sharp. So came out here, worked with Paul Sharp, and spent a lot of time here.
Yeah. So now I guess North Carolina is home.
It certainly feels that way. Yeah.
Well, it's where your fiance is.
That's a big point there. Yeah. So she actually works for the School of the Arts now. We were both students here, and she's working at admissions. So yeah, definitely the place I come back to.
And I don't think it's top secret, but you guys are geographically separated because you're working in Colorado right now, which is how I know you, because we lived in Boulder together. And so it must be nice you have like an extended holiday stay now, because is COVID making your Christmas break a little bit longer than otherwise would be?
Well, no, I'm still headed back to Boulder because there are some things that I can do, even though CU has kind of delayed the start of in-person classes. There's a little bit of work that I can take care of that I need to take care of, because I mean, this is hopefully, fingers crossed, the last semester, and well how much we have to knock out to get that done.
Yeah, it's daunting, actually. Yeah,
really,
that's my big. Nobody knows what we're talking about. We're both finishing our doctorates at CU Boulder, and it's your last semester in residence. And now I've moved away from Boulder already, but I'm still wrapping up all the documents, and it's slow going. Yeah, I suppose it's the same at every place a person's getting a doctorate, but you feel really good about your paper, you get it written, or your project, whatever you're doing. And then you're like, wow, I practically have this thing. And then you turn it in, and it takes weeks to get feedback. And then the feedback sometimes isn't great. And then it's the holidays, so you can't turn in the next version and then you start thinking, I might not make the cutoff on this deal.
Yeah, but you know what? You've got those first drafts turned in, which is really, really great. You're doing significantly better than me right now.
Well, anyway, I'm glad you get a break and you get to hang out with your fiance, who you don't get to see very often anymore.
Yeah, it's definitely a plus. And I got to be honest, after growing up in Alaska, I don't necessarily miss the cold and snow of Boulder.
Yeah. So how's the weather in North Carolina then? It gets cold.
It does get cold. It's that humidity that really, really sucks. But today it's like 50 degrees and sunny, so nothing to complain about.
Yeah, nice. Well, that's amazing that you get coffee from Alaska, because surely there's good coffee around you there.
I have to say, now I lived in North Carolina for 9 years, and I'm going to generalize broadly here, but I couldn't find a good cup of coffee. It just, the beans were always burned. Like everyone over roasts their coffee here. And I don't know, it's just, we had these things growing up in Anchorage that were coffee huts that were literally like, picture those shacks that you can see out like in front of Home Depot or Lowe's.
Yeah.
Those just installed in random parking lots that people put windows in that you could drive through to get coffee.
Okay.
These were ubiquitous in Anchorage. Like every block, there's one of these, sort of like churches in the South. And it was a big deal how good your coffee was. And I think here, it just doesn't seem to be as important, or the standard for what's acceptable is at least significantly lower. So it's worth it for me to get nicely roasted beans from somewhere else.
Yeah, that's funny. I don't know enough about the process of actually making coffee, like the growing and roasting. I just know what I like. But it seems like all the coffee shops around here in Lawrence there's a lot of coffee shops, and they're good coffee shops. They have a nice atmosphere, and they got lots of things on the menu and some good pastries and stuff. But I don't like any of the coffees because they're kind of too bitter or something. And I was thinking that's like some special kind of bean or something, but maybe they're just, like you said, they're just burning the beans.
I think that's exactly what it is, because there are some lovely coffee shops, at least here in Winston. I spent a significant portion of my undergraduate and master's degrees just sitting in coffee shops pretending to be working, but yeah, the coffee was never as good as I wanted it to be.
Well, I'm glad you got your coffee from back home. So what about your podcast? So the mini series I'm doing right now within Coffee with the Maestro is I'm interviewing people who have podcasts or webcasts or otherwise doing something interesting online. And so I want to ask you about Musical Minutes with John and John. And I don't care about John. I only am interested in John. But you can tell
John's a really nice guy.
You can tell me who John is. I don't know the other John, but what's the deal?
So John and I are both conductors. I met him at the Montreux Festival in Maine. And we both love musicals. So Musical Minutes with John and John is a podcast where we spend 15 to 25 minutes talking about a musical. We break them down, tell you kind of the background, give you a synopsis, and then just sort of offer our opinions about the show. So far, we have mostly talked about shows that we both like, so we've been relatively positive. There's been a few shows where I have tried to do some self-editing just so I'm not just like trashing a show for 20 minutes, which I very easily could do, but that doesn't feel very beneficial. We want people to hear the show, learn about the musical, and hopefully be interested in going to listen to the show. But we actually just finished recording a 4-episode series that's going to come out in February. That's going to be our February flops. These are all shows that were like just bad. They failed for various reasons. Some of them were actually good shows, like Sometimes Merrily We Roll Along, but then we also talk about Spider-Man Turn Off the Dark, which is just one of the worst things to be created in the last decade. And it was a lot of fun just to talk about why that was such a terrible show.
Well, maybe I'll just wait for you to produce all the shows, but I don't know a whole lot about Broadway or musical theater in general. I love opera, but I'm not a big musical theater fan. And I've only really conducted or taught a few of them, mostly with high school productions. But I generally don't like what's going on Broadway these days. And I know everybody else does. So I feel a little weird saying Broadway musicals suck. I hate them. And then people go, well, have you seen this one? Have you seen that one? And most of them I haven't. So I recently watched Hamilton, and I resisted watching it for a long time because everyone loved it so much. I was sure it was terrible. And I watched it. It's kind of amazing. So I know when I'm wrong. It's okay. I'm wrong often. But even so, when I see, like, it seems like the trend in the last decade or two, I don't know how long it's been going on, is that some producers will get the rights to some popular music album, like an Elton John album or a Sheryl Crow album or whatever, and they'll turn it into a musical. And I hate that.
Yeah, I also do not enjoy the jukebox musicals. I think
is that what they're called, by the way? Jukebox musical?
Yeah.
Was the what's the ABBA show? I forgot the
Mamma Mia.
Mamma Mia. Yeah, that might have been one of the first, and I just can't stomach it. And I like the music of ABBA, and maybe the dancing and the singing was great. Maybe the costumes are great, but I just, You know, it seems so lowbrow.
It does feel a little bit cheap, or
Yeah.
like the easy way out.
Right.
And they're like I said, they're not my favorite shows, but I think there are good musicals being written. I mean, Hamilton is definitely a great musical. We haven't talked about that one yet, just because, you know, John and I were both among that group of people that were like, holy shit, this is an amazing show, and then listened to the point where we had it memorized. And now the movie just recently came out, and so we're like, okay, we've maybe spent enough time with this one for now. Not to take anything away from it, just like not ready to talk about it yet. But I mean, that's a great show. Natasha Pierre and the Great Comet of 1812 came out relatively recently. Great show. Hadestown, great show. There's definitely good theater that's being made, but there is also bad theater that's being made, and cheap theater, and just sort of productions that aren't as artistic as you or I might want them to be. And, you know, it's a business. I understand that. But, you know, when you think back to some of the great musicals, like shows by Gershwin and Irving Berlin and Cole Porter and Rodgers and Hammerstein, I mean, those have great music, and there is genuinely a lot of wonderful musical material to be discovered in the theater canon. And it's nice to talk about something that's generally a little bit lighthearted more lighthearted than your average opera.
So who are the great musical composers today? Who's like who's the Gilbert and Sullivan, or the, you know, Sondheim? I don't know who all the great ones were in the past, for that matter. But so if on Broadway there's 20 shows going on at any given time, and 18 of them suck because they're just rock albums that were turned into musicals, and who are writing those other two?
Yeah, I mean, I think Lin-Manuel Miranda is definitely a force to be reckoned with and will be around for a while. You know, not only Hamilton, but In the Heights is also a great show that he did the music and lyrics for.
I'm waiting for that feature film, by the way.
Yeah, I hope it's good. I really hope it's good. It's a great musical.
Yeah.
Well, you know, that's one of the interesting things, is like the movie adaptations of musicals, at least for me, are hit or miss. Some of them are really, really good. And some of them, you know, they change things to make it more suited for a movie, which makes sense. And some of those changes, I think, aren't always great for the property. But I think they'll do a good job because it's Disney. They have the money to do a good job.
Yeah. And they've got the talent.
Yes, for sure they have the talent. You know, I am blanking on the name of the guy who wrote the music for Natasha Pierre and the Great Comet of 1812. And that's really shameful, because I genuinely think this guy is brilliant. He wrote the music, he wrote the lyrics, he did the orchestrations, and he was the original Pierre in the London performance, which happened before the Broadway performance, and he was the understudy for the Broadway performance. And that role has you playing piano and singing and acting and doing all the various things that you have to do when you're on Broadway. And
wow.
It's very impressive. That's a show that I was able to see live, that I walked into it, didn't know anything about it, but heard that it was a musical adaptation of Tolstoy's War and Peace, and was like, well, that doesn't make any sense to me. I need to go see what the heck that is, because how the hell are they turning War and Peace into a musical? And just like my jaw was hitting the floor the whole friggin' time. It was absolutely unbelievable.
Yeah, that's funny. I have a friend who was in the production on Broadway.
Oh, really?
In a minor role, and I never went to see it, so I'm kind of embarrassed that I didn't support him that way. But then I have another friend who is an opera singer who sings at the Met, even, like all over the world. And then the three of us ended up at the same place at the same time by coincidence. And she was like, "Oh my God, are you the guy from the, you know?" And I was kind of shocked, because she was starstruck, like this person who sings in these great opera houses all around the world. She was starstruck by the guy that was in the Comet show. And that's when I was like, oh, I think it's a bigger deal than I think it is. And I didn't have a chance, or couldn't afford a ticket, or couldn't get a free ticket, or didn't feel like going. So yeah, I'm embarrassed. Oh, well.
You know, there's so much theater out there. It's hard to really know what you need to see and what you don't. Like I went and saw, I was in New York. I was working with the American Ballet Theater, and I was like, all right, I like musicals. I'm going to get every cheap ticket I can and see what I can while I'm here, because I personally don't like being in New York, so I knew it wasn't going to be around very long. So I went and saw the matinee performance of Great Comet. Mind-blowing. Best live theatrical performance I've ever been to, genuinely. That evening, I went and saw Anastasia, which was absolute garbage, just like a steaming dumpster pile of terrible theater.
Tell us how you really feel,
Could
John.
not stand it. There was not a single aspect of that show that I found of merit.
Okay.
And I was so frustrated because I had just had this great experience, and then my day was absolutely ruined.
Now, when you say that it has absolutely no merit, I think that about a lot of shows that I haven't seen, so I don't really know. But I'll hear about a show and I'll go like, well, that show has absolutely no merit. I'm not going to go see that. But then people like tourists and families and kids, they just love these shows. And then when you ask them why, you're like, why did you like that? They go, oh, the costumes or the set was amazing. And so is it possible for a show to have absolutely no merit, or could there have been some merit for somebody other than you?
For somebody other than me, I am sure there was merit. For example, if you were a small child, I'm sure Anastasia was a very enjoyable musical.
There you go. Okay.
The costumes weren't bad. I have seen better. The set wasn't bad. It didn't really do anything. There were projections in that show that at times were very well integrated into the storytelling. So I will give them credit for that. But, for me, musicals are about the music, because they're not called dancicals. They're not called lighting designicals. They're not called wigicals. They're called musicals. And if the music isn't very good, then I don't think the show is very good. And the music for Anastasia left a lot to be desired.
Yeah. Well, without naming any names, I can think the reason I abandoned theater a long time ago was because I got tired of musicals that had bad music. And by bad music, I just mean like pedestrian music. And the shows I'm thinking of are very successful shows that have been running for decades by composers who are household names. And then everyone goes like, oh, I just love this person. Oh, and on this show and that show. And I changed my life. I saw this. And I think that garbage. I mean, those 3-chord songs that are just so lame, and they're all ripoffs of other people's music anyway. And so I'm with you that a musical should have good music. And, I'm trying to think of what the last great musical I saw was. And I don't want to go too old school, but, like I love those I love Sondheim. And West Side Story, of course, and going further back, Gilbert and Sullivan's. And so when I say that, people go like, well, you have no idea what you're talking about. Like, you're talking about like another era of theater. What's going on now is totally different. You should try it out. And I just almost refuse to.
I mean, what's going on now is totally different, but that doesn't make those older musicals less good. I mean, one of my favorite musicals is the Gershwin Brothers show of the I Sing, which was the first musical to win the Pulitzer Prize for drama. It specifically left out George Gershwin in the award. The award was for the book, which was by Kaufman, and Ira was credited as the lyricist. But it's a remarkable show. Michael Tilson Thomas did a recording that's like the full show with these beautiful orchestrations. It's just wonderful. And it's a political satire that still feels unbelievably relevant today. I mean, there's a line in there. The basic premise is that America is an election year. The party needs to figure out who they're going to put forward to be elected. And they decide that they're going to pick this guy because he's really just... he's not of anything of note, but he's not married, so they need to get him a wife because the president can't be unmarried. So they hold a beauty contest to determine who his wife will be. But backstage at the beauty contest, he meets someone that he actually falls in love with because she makes wonderful corn muffins. Meanwhile, the beauty contest elects someone, but she gets spurned. And so she spends the rest of the show trying to get justice for herself because she should rightfully be the president's wife because she won the beauty contest. Turns out she's the illegitimate daughter of the illegitimate son of the illegitimate nephew of Napoleon. And so France threatens to go to war with America unless this person is actually made the president's wife. But then when the actual president's wife turns out to be pregnant, everyone says, oh, well, we can't, there's a baby involved now, so it's all going to be fine and we'll just let things be how they are. But anyway, when France is showing up to start causing all the trouble, one of the lines is, it's dirty tricks of Russia, it's communistic plots. And this was like a musical from the 30s or late 20s. That like you could put that now and there would be no problems.
Yeah, that's funny. Okay, well, I'll have to check it out. Is this the subject of one of your podcasts by any chance?
It is. It's you can check out our podcast on it. And like I said, that Michael Tilson Thomas recording is really, really good.
Yeah, that sounds like a movie from the 80s, but I can't remember which one. Kevin Kline, I think, was the president. But I don't remember. I seem to recall a movie about a single president who was trying to get married or something like that.
That does sound familiar.
So people who are really interested in musicals can listen to your podcast. Where can they find it? Or what's the easiest way to search it and find it?
Literally anywhere you find podcast, Musical Minutes with John and John, and we will be there. And you can check us out.
Are John and John supposed to be mysterious, or can you tell us who John and John are? We know that you're one of the Johns. I'm John
McKeever. And the other John is John Noreen. He's a conductor out of Texas. Yeah.
The couple of episodes that I've heard, you guys have a really good rapport because you seem like you have different personalities, obviously, but you sort of bounce off each other in a funny way.
Oh, thank you for saying so.
An entertaining way is what I mean, not like a peculiar way. I mean, it's funny.
I get it. Yeah. We're two conductors who love musical theater. It's a little bit nerdy, but yeah, we like it.
And but you don't just conduct musical theater, you conduct orchestra and opera, and I think you're doing an opera pretty soon.
Hoping to be. We'll see.
If everything allows life to go on. Is it looking good?
No, it's not looking good, but it's one of those things like I have to do this to complete the degree because it's a part of one of my recitals and I'm writing a paper on it, and I'm going to feel like a real sham if I write the paper without having actually conducted the opera. So I am determined to find a way to make it happen. I mean, I have a plan. The good news is it's Argento's Miss Havisham's Wedding Night, which is just a one-woman 30-minute opera. So I can do it in COVID protocols and be safe with the distancing and be responsible in that way. And the time frame allows us to air out the room and all that good stuff. But CU has shut down till February at the earliest. So I just can't physically be on campus with the number of people that I need until they decide to let us be on campus.
Yeah. Does it give you the time between whenever they open in February and when you were planning to do the project? Do you have time? Can you get it together? I mean, I know you can.
I was planning on doing it in January.
So no. The answer is no.
I had everything booked for the first week of the semester, and then they sent out an email a couple weeks ago and they're like, yeah, we're just going to wait a while. And I was like, oh, cool. That's great. That's super helpful. So schedule is unknown at this moment in time, but like I said, gotta make it happen. So it's gonna happen at some point.
Good luck.
I'm excited about it though, because I've got a really, really great young director, Alyssa Weathersby, who I met at a summer festival in San Diego. She is like we've been through like 8 different incarnations of this show because we had talked about it like several years ago, just doing it as a traditional opera. And then we were like, okay, the world is on fire. How can we adapt this? And we had explored ways to do it in a minimal setting. And now it's like, okay, the world has fallen apart. So we're going to do it just straight for streaming, designed to be staged for several cameras that will alternate around. And I think when we get to do it, I think it's going to be really compelling because we will have had the time to plan and intentionally set out in this direction as opposed to just adapting on the fly. But it's just a matter of when that's going to be.
And you, regardless of all the ingenious things you're doing, you have to get the ensemble together in the same room
Yeah.
have something.
Fortunately, so it's a 16-person orchestra, so 18 people with me and the singer. And at CU, we have one really large ensemble rehearsal space where we can all fit with the appropriate distancing. So
Yeah.
we have the space, just need the time.
I recall that CU is doing, I mean, lots of organizations are doing the right thing and trying to do social distancing and masks and be safe and everything, but CU is going kind of above and beyond. Is it 8 feet or 10 feet between wind players?
So it's actually 8 feet for anyone who doesn't produce aerosols, and then 12 feet for anyone who does. So wind, brass, singers got to be 12 feet away from anyone else.
So I think a lot of people, the standard is sort of 6 feet, right? That's what the CDC said a long time ago. So a lot of orchestras, my orchestra at Washburn, for example, we're doing 6 feet in between, but 6 feet ends up being more like 4 feet sometimes. Sometimes I see things online and I'm like, there's no way. There might be 6 feet from here to the center of the next person, but from shoulder to shoulder, it's 4 feet. So people are squeezing themselves in, but it must be really hard to find a space when the distance is 12 feet or 8 feet.
Yeah, it's definitely tricky. You know, they're keeping us honest though. They've taped out like this grid that's 4 foot by 4 foot across every single room at CU that anyone could possibly be in with people. So you know, like, okay, if you're on this X, then it's 3 X's to the next person for 12 feet or 2 X's for 8 feet. And you know, I appreciate the concern and the wanting to be safe, and it paid off. I mean, we went through our entire semester. We had some ups and downs in terms of just the general CU population, but at least when we ended the semester at CU, after having in-person rehearsals, there wasn't any classroom spread, and we had students get sick, but there's no evidence that they got sick because of activities in the College of Music, which is great.
Yeah. But like everyone in the world, I think you and I are of like mind. We want everyone to be safe and everything, but also like, damn it, I have this thing I really want to do or need to do. And yeah, that's why I think some people are making bad decisions right now because they just want to do a thing instead of like, what's the right thing. Regardless, you got to get this opera done.
I do have to get this opera done. I don't know when it's going to happen, because you're absolutely right. I want to be safe, and I want everyone else to be safe. And I certainly, you know, everyone involved in my show, I want them to be safe, and I want them to feel comfortable, because music making should be a positive experience, not something where you're worried about your life. So, you know, there's a lot that's out of my control. We'll just roll with what I'm told I can do.
Yeah. Well, thanks for taking time to have coffee with me. It was nice to see your face again and to catch up a little bit.
Yeah, thank you for having me. This has been great.
Yeah, hopefully I'll get to see you in the new year. I don't know if I'll have a chance to go to Boulder. I have some business to take care of in Boulder as well. I probably will do it remotely, but anyway, I hope I see you soon.
Likewise.
All right. Have a good Christmas and a great New Year.
Take care.